Hello and welcome to Category is Books, where there are no straight answers. I'm Andrew and this is Blake. Today we're talking about Spellhacker by M.K. England, an American librarian, pronouns she and her. So I figured we'd start with a quick synopsis, which is in Kakata, magic, known as Maz, was once a freely available natural resource. Then an earthquake released a magical plague, killing thousands and opening the door for a corporation to make Maz a commodity that's tightly controlled and, of course, outrageously expensive, which is why Diz and her three best friends run a lucrative, illegal Maz siphoning gig on the side. Their next job is supposed to be their last heist ever, but when their plan turns up a powerful new strain of Maz that blows up in their faces, they're driven to unravel conspiracy at the very center of the spell plague and possibly save the world. Cool. Neat wrap up, I think.
Yes.
Can't take credit for that. That was just the synopsis that goes with the book.
It sums it up nicely then.
Yeah. So, which character do you want to start with?
Let's start with Diz as part of the synopsis, and we can go from there.
Cool. So, initial thoughts?
Diz, I like Diz. I'm not going to lie. I preferred other characters over her, but I feel that she was a very, very well-rounded character that seemed to have more thought put into them than perhaps some of the others.
Yeah,
That
I
were
know what
part
you
of the
mean.
main crew.
Yeah. See, at the very start of the book, when she talks about her own flaws, I was like, oh, is this sort of like a lamp shading technique and she's actually going to turn out to be a Mary Sue?
Yeah.
And that is definitely not the case.
No.
Honestly, she got a bit really annoying. So annoying at one point. I just wanted to scream, learn some basic communication skills.
Yeah.
Is it that difficult?
Yeah, we get it. Stuff happened, but
Yeah.
stuff happened a long time ago.
Yeah.
You should have learned some basic techniques by now.
Ideally.
The ones that she does are not healthy at all.
No way. I mean,
but that does get addressed in the book as well, and the ramifications from them.
Yeah. I just wish sort of that backstory of how she, came by all this trauma happened a bit earlier, because that would have made it more relatable,
Yes, they did wait too long for that. I'll give them that.
Yeah. It was 3/4 of the way through the book before we found out why she's so traumatized. It's like, oh, now it makes sense, and I have a little bit more like empathy.
Yeah, I can see why the author left it that long to actually tell us what happened.
Yeah.
As the story progressed and what they'd found, the reasons why their trauma happened became more apparent, and it fitted in better with the story then. But putting it in earlier would have been better because they could have pared it down somewhat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not sure how spoilery we're allowed to get with this, so I'm being pretty vague.
I mean, I'd say completely spoilery is fine. This is a book club after all.
Fair enough. So the fact that her parents died of the plague, that could have been the reason given at the beginning. Parents died of the plague.
Yeah.
This is how she's coping.
Yeah. I mean, some hint about her mother's death and how, she found her dead earlier on would have been just a little bit more helpful for understanding quite how she ended up in this situation.
Yeah, the fact that she lived with said dead mother for an undisclosed amount of time before another character came in and sorted it for her.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't have to go into complete detail because, I mean, it was quite a harrowing description when it finally came round. She could have saved that till later in the book and just sort of given any sort of basis for understanding why she's so traumatized.
Yes.
Because she does come off as a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
And now that I understand the full backstory, the characters do seem like they were a little bit harsh in the way that they treated her.
Yes.
Like, I thought that earlier on, but sorry.
No, I was going to say, but the fact that they've gotten to that point because they've been dealing with her and trying to help her for so long, it
Yeah,
does kind of parallel real life, if you like. Because if someone is continuously refusing help for
yeah.
that many years,
Oh, totally.
people are going to start getting a bit,
Yeah. I
especially
mean,
when they are trying to move on with their own trauma as well.
yeah. I mean, I have in my notes that I completely understand why they were so willing to leave her behind.
Oh,
Like,
gotcha.
yeah, you get to that point where, yeah, you do have to leave someone behind if they're refusing to do anything about their situation.
And they are actively holding you back.
Yeah.
I get that, but
Mm. I mean, what was he saying? Oh, yeah, but the issues that this all caused, um, they did have a wrap up at the end, but it was more of an end of the world epiphany without any actual resolutions to the problems and the trauma that
yes,
were. And I was a bit like, that feels a bit cheap.
yes, yes. They did have some resolution to it, but nowhere near enough. It was
No,
that she finally said it and then she started to heal.
yeah,
But it wasn't accepting her trauma so much, it was accepting emotions
yeah,
rather than dealing with trauma, if you like.
yeah, um, yeah, and that just it's a little bit annoying.
Yeah,
Like things don't just resolve without any hard work.
no. Given that it's a young adult book, so like 15, 16-year-olds, I'd probably market it as.
Mm,
I get it, but at the same time, they are old enough to deal with those sort of themes.
yeah,
And quite frankly, a lot of them would have gone through something not similar, but something traumatic in their life. And yeah,
yeah. It could have been a good
it could have been a
opportunity
bit
to set an
better.
example for how to, you know,
Yes.
heal, get better.
Yeah.
Instead, it's just like, oh, well, if you're about to die, then all your problems are gonna fix themselves, which
Yeah.
is
No.
not really practical.
No. Not at all.
Um, so moving on to her friends.
Hmm.
Um, Anya, let's say, she was all
Yeah.
right. She was a bit of an elitist dick.
She was one of the characters I felt was very wishy-washy and didn't have that much background given to her. She
Yeah,
was just sort
same.
of there as a fourth place filler almost.
Yeah, honestly, I felt the same about Jason. I don't really
Yes.
think either of them had much to them.
I
They
would
were
say
just,
Jason had a little bit more just because he was included in the backstory with them at the orphanage.
yeah,
And she wasn't, she just sort of came in like 5 years ago, 4 years
yeah,
ago. And she'd sort of kept them at arm's length almost.
yeah. She was a bit of a means to an end.
Yes.
I would have liked maybe a little bit more information about her and Jason's relationship since it, if it came up once and it was just like a passing comment, yeah, all right. But since they then later got back together, we didn't really
Yeah.
see any of the, you know, contributing
Um,
factors to that, which makes
yeah.
it think like,
We
oh,
got, yeah, no, like I said, no backstory, no real information about them. She seemed like a plot point almost. I can't think of how to get them from A to B, so let's involve this character
yeah,
whose money is the option and the
mm,
solution.
mm,
Having a character like that in that sort of world involved in the story, however, is kind of interesting
yeah,
because it sort of parallels how in countries where you've got sort of natural disasters occurring and things like that, having the money to maintain yourself and sort of not being amongst the lower ranks, if you like,
mm,
is helpful, and it does show that although it doesn't solve all your problems, it damn sight helps.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this is it. All she really brings to it is some, yeah, she's a bit helpful during the crisis and stuff, but her
Mm.
biggest power is just she has money to sort of fix their problems for them at times.
Yeah.
And it's like, so no real sort of character input. It's not because of who she is that, we have progression in the story. It's just because she's rich.
Yeah, and the fact that she's rich allows her to play with Maz
Yeah.
because she's what they've dubbed as a tech witch.
Mm.
That I don't really know how to feel about that because she's
No.
not. She would
Mm.
technically be a Mundy like Jason and Diz because they can't play with Maz
Mm.
because they can't afford the tech to do so.
Yeah. And there's a lot of bitterness there from Des, quite rightfully so. And I've got some notes
Yes.
about that and how it sort of intersects with the themes a bit and how it's like bordering on being anti-capitalist. But having thought about it a little bit more, I think it's more anti-corporation than anything else.
Remy is firmly within that sector as well.
Yeah.
From the offset.
Yeah.
From the offset.
And what are your thoughts about Remy? Because they are super sweet, and we should sort of outline here that their pronouns are they and them.
Yeah.
But like,
I
it also felt like there wasn't a whole lot necessarily of characterization there to like
yeah.
interact with.
Yeah, they were very much struck me as I love. Don't get me wrong, they are one of my favorite characters because I think they're just so sweet. And but they are the complete opposite of Diz to pretty much. So they are incredibly patient with her, but they're also the lovesick puppy.
Yeah.
Who they're not sure whether people will like them because they're ill or because they actually like them as a person. The fact that they've got the spell plague is a big part of their character, I want to say, and it sometimes overshadows them themselves.
Yeah. Like apart from them being like sweet and loving and caring, I didn't really get a whole lot of personality necessarily.
Mm.
And I don't really see what is fostering all these strong emotions between them when they have such constantly tense and closed off interactions.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, what about Davin?
Davin. I didn't like Davin to begin with, if I'm honest. He struck me very much as he's going to turn out to be the bad guy because
Same.
it's always the family member, it's always that. But I don't get me wrong, I very much enjoyed the book. It was a good listen for me.
Yeah.
But it was almost like a stereotypical plot with a twist.
Yeah.
And the twist is there's Maz.
Yeah. It very much follows a tried and tested method
Yeah.
here. So I also could see it coming a mile off. I mean, I thought that Davin was going to be betraying them right from the start because I thought, oh, that's a bit like sus that he's
Yeah.
just able to get them out of this sticky situation with his ID in this, place that they shouldn't be, and they've been set up, have they?
I wonder where that came from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, sorry, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit here. The setup was introduced and then it petered out. We don't actually find out who the person who set him up from was in the first place. It never really gets discussed after they find the Maz.
That's a good point. I hadn't considered that. Yeah, like how did they know?
Yeah.
I feel like there was a bit of a chunk of the story maybe missing there.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, this very important plot point from the beginning has gone since the middle.
Yeah.
Where's it gone? It doesn't get discussed anymore.
Yeah. I feel like another character there who works for the company that had been like tracking them, you know,
Mm.
a personification of the company itself would have been, it would have fit in nicely there
Yeah,
and given a just fleshed out some more of the details.
yeah. Even if it was just a, oh, that was Adam, the guy that I work, who's under me in my IT management position.
Yeah,
Even that would have been, this is how it happened. And it
yeah,
would have just sort of rounded the story off a little bit more. There's a lot of holes in it, I feel.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I kind of understand why Darren sort of, when confronted, said, "Oh, I'll cut a deal," because
Yeah,
that's fair enough. But that kind of makes it like there's no real antagonist apart from this faceless company.
yeah, yeah. The whole book does feel very, like you said, anti-corporation rather than there's this big bad
Mm,
that has a face that you can deal with, rather
yeah,
than let's take down the big corporations and make everything better.
yeah.
Because we've got no follow-on from that either.
No, no. This I It's what makes me think. The author is, I believe, around our age. I
Mm.
struggled to dig up any real information on her. Um, but sort of, yeah, that bitterness about corporations is definitely characteristic of our generation.
Yeah,
Do you feel like she hasn't sort of made that um, next step into saying, well, hold on, corporations are a symptom of capitalism?
yeah.
Um,
Sorry, I've just dug up their website.
yeah.
I'm just seeing if I can find anything else on them from it, like an author synopsis or uh, Florida. They're a librarian.
Mm,
That's it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
A little bit more would have been helpful. Like, it's always good to have some context for an author's work.
yeah,
Um, no, I kind of feel like she's maybe keeping the audience at arm's length, just like some of the characters are.
maybe.
But maybe
I mean,
I
it
might
could
be saying.
be.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, they do have another book out, which I do have
Oh, the disasters
lined
one.
up to listen to, which are called, yeah, The Disasters, which is their first one.
Hmm.
And judging by some of the reviews, it's gotten very mixed messages, like Spellhacker did.
Hmm. I'm still looking forward to listening to it.
Oh yeah,
Be interesting to see how the two compare.
definitely, yeah,
Um, so I guess there are only really two other characters worth noting, and that's the professor and his husband,
yes,
who I loved.
yes. They
I
are weaved into the story, and I would say they've probably had more thought put into them than some of the main characters did.
yeah,
A lot of
yeah.
them hinges on the professor, like
Mm,
the whole plot hinges on him.
yeah. I mean, I think my favorite part about that was that they were just two happy older um, gay married men who hadn't murdered each other after years of being completely isolated,
Yes,
which I'm sure a lot of people can have some empathy with these days.
yes, definitely, yeah. So we've only been what, 7 months? Less than, because people could go out before that if they weren't shielding.
Mm,
And that's a long time to be stuck with one person,
yeah,
however much you love them.
this is true.
So the fact that they are still clearly very much in love
Mm, you
and
see
are
hope.
still very happy together is really nice to see.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, me and Charlie are very much like that. So it's nice to see some just representation of healthy couples.
Yes, yes, because a lot of what we do see is either very stereotypical
Mm,
and not the good stereotypical, or the polar opposite of what was represented in that book.
yeah.
So the fact that they won't, rather than they can't, just stay with one person,
Yeah.
or that, oh yeah, but it's just normal as part of the relationship that everyone cheats, and this all happened with everybody. That's not. No, no, no.
No.
That's come very much from propaganda from years ago that has
Yeah.
stuck with people, and it's very difficult to shake off.
Yeah.
It's nice to see actual representation in a book.
Yeah. Which that reminds me of a conversation I had a few weeks ago with a friend of ours. He said that the problem he has with queer representation in the media is that um, their whole character arc is often based around this um, torture and pain they have of being LGBTQ plus,
Mm-hmm.
and he's tired of it. And I was like,
Yeah,
yeah, know exactly what you mean. That's not all there is to people who are
yeah,
queer.
yeah. It was a Speaking of that theme in the book, it was very nice to see it so represented and so normalized.
Yeah,
I don't like describing it quite like that because it should be normal. You know, you should just be accepted without a bat of an eyelid. But in that
yeah,
book, it was just, oh, it's just a fact about them.
yeah.
Like the bit that struck me the most probably was when they were at the bakery early on in the book,
Mm,
and they were just talking about it, and that little bit came up that she lost her wife to the spell plague. It wasn't a
yeah.
big thing. It was
No,
just
just a fact.
it was yeah, it was just a fact, and they moved on.
Mm,
And the very inclusive language that was used throughout the books was
mm,
what book was very good.
yeah. It
It was
does make me
nice.
wish I had some more information on the author and whether or not she's LGBTQ plus or if she's just a really good ally. You know?
It would be nice to know a little bit more about them.
Yeah. Um, Sort of carrying on from that, as one of my side notes, is that um, she introduced one of the side characters who we never even actually meet. They never say anything. They have no part in the
As
book at all. Yeah, she introduces them with their pronouns, but none of the other characters. And
Yes,
it feels a little bit ingenuine.
yes. However, I do believe that character does come up again, and I
Do
think
they?
it's the one that was arrested at their tower block.
Oh, right.
I'm fairly sure that's the one because they said on the lower floor, and it's the one on the lower floor that gets arrested. It's the
Okay.
only other character in that block that gets mentioned by name or pronoun.
Mm,
I'm fairly sure it's the same one, but I'd need to actually see a copy of the book to be able to do double check that because I couldn't
yeah.
tell you when it is on the audio book.
No,
Honestly,
same.
I'm no good with timestamps.
No, me either. Um, yeah, I would have liked some introduction for the other characters' pronouns. Like they have this sort of messaging system which they can sort of see over their eyes, don't they? Which I thought
Yes,
didn't translate very well as an audio book. I think it would have been more effective in print, but that's not exactly the fault of the author. But sort of when it comes up with their name, their pronoun sort of Davin, he, him would have been a nice sort of natural way to sort of introduce characters like that. Um,
yeah,
because I mean, I got through like it must have been half the book before I actually knew that Dizzy was supposed to be a woman.
yeah,
I just kind of had no concept for that, and sort of
yeah. They don't introduce many characters by their pronouns at all, and it's only when other characters are talking about them that you hear them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, on that note, I mean, we were, I mean, we didn't really get any description of Dizzy until she was in the professor's bathroom, which is what, three-quarters of the way through the book. And I
Yeah,
was like, a little bit of information about that earlier on would have helped me sort of visualize the character and get drawn in a bit more.
yes.
See
There
it.
was no real descriptions. We know they've got one side of their head shaved,
Yeah,
and that they've always got a deck on them, and that's it.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, just would have appreciated a little bit more fleshing out.
Yeah. Like I said, there's not very much given about the characters. Like I said, there's some of them do feel a bit less fleshed out than others.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Um, so I think that's all I have to say on sort of those topics. Unless you have anything further to,
no,
any further thoughts? Okay. So
no further thoughts at the moment. I'm doing some digging as well on MK England, see if I can find anything while we're discussing it.
I'm impressed that you can multitask like that. I have to sort of only focus on one, otherwise, yeah, something will get like shielded out. Um, I really like the explanation of Maz and the legs of it swirling underneath the Earth's crust. I thought that was
Yes.
quite creative, and the fact that they sort of went down into the crust, I was like, ooh, ooh, I don't think that's ever been done before, to my knowledge.
No,
You know?
not since Journey to the Center of the Earth, but it was done in a very different fashion.
Yeah,
Very different fashion.
yeah, I really liked that. I
Yeah.
thought it was good. Um, right. So themes.
Themes? Sure. Let's
Um,
go.
so yeah, big corporation hoards resources, putting lives and quality of life in danger,
Yeah.
um, and represses searches for a cure. All very much things that happen in the real world.
Yes.
So again, I would have liked a little bit more backstory as to whether or not there is a particular company they were thinking of. But then it applies to like so many companies um, that
Yeah.
just have no
Again,
regards. Sorry.
again, it's just the generic big bad corporation,
Yeah.
faceless corporation that is too ingrained into society to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, I can think of a couple offhand that I'm not going to mention.
No. I'm sure we can all think of fistfuls of examples.
Yes, yes.
Mm. Um, yeah. So for a good portion of the book, I was thinking, oh, this is really anti-capitalist. You know,
Mm.
is this all out socialism? But then I considered it a little bit more. I think the biggest thing that disproved that for me was Anya and how Dizzy is very much bitter over the amount of money Anya has, quite rightfully.
Yes,
But there's no sort of acknowledgement that maybe people shouldn't be allowed to become that wealthy to start with, because that means other people have to go without.
yes. They did kind of explain that away a little bit, however, by saying they came from outside of the zones of disaster,
Mm,
but they were from old money. So
yeah.
it's very. So
Mm,
I've just come stumbled across their Facebook page.
yeah. Anything good?
So I've thrown that up in the chat for you to have a shifty at.
Cool.
Because otherwise I'll forget. So
Fair enough.
yes, it was very much a. It doesn't get talked about that much,
Mm. I
but
mean,
there's no real acknowledgement past we're angry because it must be nice to be able to have all of this at the tips of your fingers.
yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
just if the few didn't have so much wealth, there'd just be more of it to go around, and people like Dizzy and her friends wouldn't have to live in god awful orphanages, you know, starving and wondering where their next food or maz is going to come from.
Yeah.
And clearly, they have to pay for healthcare, so which is convenient for them that Anya's then rich, because otherwise Dizzy would probably have died of that gunshot wound.
Yes.
But like, so there's you pointed out all these flaws in the system, but no like genuine criticism of it or ways to combat that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah. Very much a screw you capitalism, but they don't even take down the corporation they're trying to take down.
Mm.
You see
Yeah,
what I mean? It's very much it will stop the thing that you're doing now, but we're going to leave you to do whatever you want still.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, and I kind of like that there's a little bit of an open end in that they can then sort of go on to have further adventures to try and take this company down.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's like, oh, so you've solved some of the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe have like a little bit more resolution. I mean, at a point, I even forgot why they were down there dealing with all this poisonous mass. I was like, so what? Why are they doing this? What good outcome are they hoping for? And then I was like, oh, right, yeah, to stop them from destroying the city, hopefully.
To stop them from being able to sell. I took it as that as well, but also to try and cure the reason why people are getting sick in the first place. Because
Yeah,
if they can draw Maz themselves without getting sick,
yeah,
MMC won't have,
any power.
yeah, they won't have the power to stand. So it's very much a, they don't really acknowledge that part of it that much, though. Only
Yeah,
really through Remy.
yeah. It's a
Yeah,
little bit more. Um, yeah, it just needs to flesh that out a bit and make
yeah,
make it really drive home the point.
yeah. Because it was very much between the lines
Mm,
from what I was, well, from what I heard from it was anyway.
mm. And that brings up sort of theft is a very common in communities that have such a wide poverty divide.
Mm,
Um, and that's super relatable for all of us. Like, I know we both know what it's like to have literally no money to the point where you're not
hmm.
sure if you're going to be able to like feed yourself,
Yeah,
pay any of your bills. And I guess that makes it a little bit even more, um, not necessarily a letdown, but like you relate to it so much, and then there's no resolution for them because you could then have a little bit of closure for your own problems, even if it's
yeah,
just like this fictional closure. It's kind
mm,
of like left you hanging a little bit.
yeah.
Mm.
That's not something I really focused on the book. If I'm honest, it's not something that occurred to me, but it is a very,
Yeah.
very good point.
Mm.
It is. You hear stories about it all the time in the news. Like
Yeah.
man's been jailed for strings of theft and for fraud, and
Mm.
it's
But, you
it's
know,
not good. Yeah,
uh,
but
you know, I
some people genuinely feel that they don't have any other choice.
well, this is it. You know, I do this volunteer work with the police.
Hmm.
Um, we have done sort of, and I should point out at this moment that it's not that I necessarily support the police. It's just that I fell into doing that, and I quite like the people who I work with. They're very nice, and they have some genuine good motives. Um, um, yeah, so we did these surveys throughout the year about what people think is a priority at the moment, and a lot of the people who we asked, all of whom were sort of under 25, were saying, "Oh, we think theft is an issue." I was like, "Is it though?" Because people don't usually steal for fun. They steal because they feel like they don't have any other choice. There are things that they need that they just can't justify paying for. Um, yeah, if we just put some more effort into fixing some social problems, then yeah, it wouldn't be so much of of an issue. A little bit of a tangent there.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's It's a bit of a weird one. When I was doing some voluntary work in the homeless sector in the big town, we'd get a lot of people who hadn't been in for a few weeks, and it turned out it's because they got arrested for theft.
All
And
right.
it's not because they wanted to, it's because they physically couldn't get it any other way, and they needed it like basic hygiene products
Mm-hmm.
and food for
Mm.
when the services that were running weren't open.
Yeah.
They were only open 9 till 5:30, and while they were able to house some of the people, a lot of
Mm.
people didn't qualify for it, whether it was because they'd been previously housed and had been blacklisted, or whether they needed to get off certain substances first before they could be housed.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more common than you think when people don't have the means to get it.
Mm. Yeah.
How else are they meant to get it?
Yeah. And that's sort of a frustrating thing is that to get off a lot of substances, you really need stable housing because a lot of
Yeah,
people turn to that because they're homeless, because they have no
yeah,
other way of coping.
yeah,
And it's just this vicious cycle that nobody seems really all that invested in ending. Well, no right
yeah,
wing government anyway.
yeah. Don't worry, they do a lot of good work, but
Mm.
they they can't solve everything on their own. They need other bodies to step in and help with the crisis. And if they're not getting that support, there's only a finite amount of things they can do.
Yeah.
Uh, so
Mm.
I would say overall they're doing more good than they are bad, but it's at the expense of other vulnerable people, and that's not always good
Mm.
at all.
It's a complicated situation.
Very complicated situation.
Yeah.
But yes, theft when you've got nothing is a lot more common than we as a society would like to admit to.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah,
And I just, yeah, a little bit more social commentary on that might have been nice.
yeah,
It's like she's seen that what the problem is, but she hasn't really sort of had any thought processes on why that might be
yeah,
or how to combat that.
yeah, yeah. It's she's outlined a lot of problems within society, but
Mm.
that's where it stopped
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, like this is a problem,
Mm.
and then nothing.
Um, so, sort of moving on to the final theme that I have sort of jotted down is that it really gives a really good representation of what living with trauma is like.
Yes, yes,
Like,
that is probably the best thing that she did in the book is how well fleshed out all of it was, whether that be because she has lived through trauma herself or themselves. I'm not sure what pronouns to use for them, if I'm honest, because I've looked and I can't find very much about them.
same. All I saw that is on a lot of the websites that were selling the book, she's referred to as she and her.
Yeah,
So I kind of thought, well, I mean, that's a good enough placeholder, I suppose, since the author themselves hasn't declared it either way.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm searching all of the social media that I can, and I'm not getting any closer. So
This is it. I mean, part of being a good author is having some engagement with your audience on a
I've got
personal
I'm sorry,
basis.
I'm interrupting. I'm interrupting here. Young author, young adult author, librarian, gamer, fandom geek, X-wing pilot, non-binary, and by the
Ah,
looks of things, they've got a gay flag on their profile. They them.
okay, cool. They them.
They them.
Um, awesome. I wish I'd known that earlier,
Yeah, that took a lot
but
of digging.
yeah. Um,
Yeah,
and this is it. Even that would have been some really good representation for us.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
yeah.
I don't know whether it's just because the place that I got the audio book from is known to be not great with that sort of thing,
Oh, are
or
they?
whether it's just not,
Yeah. I
included.
I have heard some uh, less than positive things about them, specifically about the kind of contracts they give out when they do sponsorship deals.
Hmm.
It's yeah, a bit hedgy.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, the author hasn't even put their pronouns in like their Facebook profile or anything like that,
Yeah.
and it's like, you know, it
Yeah.
just it's. I guess it's one of those things where you need a parasocial relationship.
Yeah. And I had to go to the Bird to find this. I mean, it's not on their website either.
Mm,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe that means that they're not too worried about it. But I mean, obviously, we can't interpret their um, motives that well. You can only sort of
Yeah.
speculate.
Yeah. But there we go. Maybe they just didn't want to. Maybe they were being. I'm going to describe it as stealth because I've got no other word for it. But
Possibly. Mm,
just for their own safety, or they didn't want to be in the limelight like that. I know a lot of
mm,
people are very less than forthcoming because of the current climate with
yeah,
that,
which is
which is why it was
definitely
so
more than
nice.
fair.
Yeah, which is why it
I
was so nice to see it normalized in the book.
Yeah, and that's what makes me go, huh? Because if you're going to be so like pro um, non-binary issues in your work, I mean that's going to draw attention anyway. So you may
Yes,
as well just be like, these are my pronouns, please use them.
yes, yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean it's a dangerous situation, oftentimes
yeah,
these days. So I don't blame them.
yeah,
I have my own concerns about sort of living quite openly and definitely politically.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think that wraps up everything I wanted to say on it. Did you have any more thoughts?
You can't see it. I'm shaking my head. I keep forgetting that out of my camera. No, I think you've covered everything that I was thinking of. Honestly, you've hit all the big points that I had.
Cool.
Um, it sounds like when you listen back, it sounds like we didn't enjoy the book. That's definitely not the case on my part. I really enjoyed
Yeah,
the book.
same.
It When it comes to dissecting it, though, it does kind of become a
Yeah,
little bit
yeah,
lacking almost.
yeah. Some holes appear.
Yes,
But
but
it is. Sorry.
I would recommend getting a copy if
Same.
you can.
I found it very enjoyable.
Mhm.
I really appreciated it. Um, out of 10, I would give it 7 spells.
Yeah, I'd say seven's a good rating. It wasn't a horrible book. It was very, some of the issues were very well thought out in it. Others were either dropped, like we discussed, or could have done with a little bit more,
Mm,
just a little bit more, you know.
yeah,
But as a whole, I enjoyed it and I immersed myself in it quite well, and that's all I ask from a book.
yeah,
Whether or not I can immerse myself in it,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
good.
Same. Awesome. Um, I would like to take this opportunity to say that I am making a non-binary themed hat to give away to the first person who tells us what their favorite queer book is and why. It's going to be black with purple, white, and yellow stars on it.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah. I thought, that would be a nice gift for somebody, or
Mm.
just a great hat to wear. Hopefully.
Yeah,
So yeah, cool.
yeah. Not gonna lie, I'm a little bit jealous now.
Wow, Christmas is coming up. I guess I could be
Yes.
persuaded to make another one.
I'll have to be extra nice to you then.
Yeah. I tell you, the amount of hats I've made lately are like 7 hats, including this one. This was the first one I made, and I was like, oh, it's a little bit short. Like, it doesn't even cover my ears. But then I was like, oh, actually, hold on. I think I quite like it.
Actually, this is quite comfy, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like the gloves you made me. Oh, how many years ago now was this? You made me 2 pairs of gloves and you were looking at them going, these are tiny. Are you sure these will work? And I'm like, yes.
Yeah,
And they are
they
still
were
the most comfortable gloves I'll have.
good, good. Like, they were absolutely just so small. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Well, I like them to be tight on my hands and not go down my wrists too much, and they're perfect.
Yeah,
So,
that's fair. That's fair. I'm glad they're still serving you well.
yes, I keep a pair in my car.
Awesome.
And I had to wear them in the office the other day because it was so cold.
Ooh, that's
Yeah,
unfortunate.
so because we have people in the office at the moment because of all the COVID restrictions, we have to have airflow, and that means the windows have to be open.
Ah, that's unfortunate when we're in the
Yes,
middle of November.
yes, but other days it hasn't been too bad.
Okay,
But
good.
yeah, but yes, they've come in very useful because they don't cover my fingers either, so I can type properly.
Yeah. So fingerless gloves are definitely I'd say they're my favorite to knit, but I've like not tried any other kind of glove. So I've just made that one pattern like 20 times.
Fair.
Mm. Okay, cool. Thank you very much for coming on and having a conversation.
That's not a problem.
Um, disasters next time.
Yes, I have that
Awesome.
one queued up for next.
Cool.
So,
I am
well,
very.
kind of next. I maybe started another book by accident
That's fair enough.
a month ago, and I really should finish that one.
Yeah, yeah. That sounds reasonable. I mean,
Yeah,
life is crazy. We'll get to it when we get to it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think that's all we can really say.
yeah. I would probably say so. Yeah.
Cool.
I mean, it's from what I understand about the disasters book,
Mm,
it is still very non-binary friendly. The language is very inclusive,
mm-hmm.
but it's set
Cool.
in space.
Oh, space.
Space.
Do you know that oh, Tim Curry was in a really terrible film where and he says this line was that he's going to the last place that capitalism hasn't been able to touch. Space. It's a very popular meme. No?
No, but I'm gonna have to look it up now. You've done that.
Yeah. It's
Whiz.
it's absolutely awful. And you can tell that he thinks it's awful because he's trying to not laugh as he reads his lines. I was like, oh, Tim Curry's a professional.
Yes, Tim Curry is amazing. So, and you can't convince me otherwise. He hasn't done anything to make me think otherwise yet that I've
Agreed.
heard of.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah. Cool.
but yeah, he's oh my goodness, he was in the Clue film.
The Clue film. Is that new?
Yes. No, no, it's from
No.
1985. What do we call it? We don't call it Clue over here. We call it. It's the one with Colonel Mustard in the drawing room with the lead pipe. It's that, and I can't remember what we call it.
Is that not
That
Clue?
board game.
Is that not Clue?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so.
You looking it up?
Yep. How can you tell?
Okay, must be the noise of the keys. Hmm.
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 Cluedo.
Oh, Cluedo. Wasn't
We call
far
it
off.
Cluedo.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they say you can tell a lot about a person based on where they know Tim Curry from.
Yeah.
I mean, that always used to be Muppet Treasure Island for me. Now it's also Rocky Horror.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've seen him in a lot of stuff growing up, but it's not what I would say I knew him from.
Yeah, yeah,
You
fair
know?
enough. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
awesome
I'm
sauce.
just having a scroll down just to see if I can see.
Okay,
Uh,
I'm going to take this opportunity to say goodbye to our audience and stop recording.
No problem.
Okay. Bye, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, please consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing to our channel, or donating to us on Patreon.